Welcome, brothers and sisters. Welcome to our program today on Studio Galaxy 473 in Confer. We're always happy to exchange ideas, to express our position, and to provoke discussion. In a democratic country, we believe that issues ought to be discussed. No one has a monopoly on ideas or what is right or what is wrong. And even when you have a new idea or concern, we believe it's good to push it out in the marketplace and let others pong it up. They might look at the merit and the justification and the rationale and see what is in it. And we may be able to come up with something that is workable. You are with the Galaxy Equalizers today. And on our program, we provoke discussion. We want people to discuss issues that is relevant and pertinent and is affecting the society. It may well help the leaders of the society to take the necessary corrective measures or make adjustment to the direction we are going. Today, our topic is, are you satisfied with the education system in your country? We in Grenada, and we are not satisfied with the education system in Grenada. We believe that this is one of the biggest challenge facing our country. This is one of the biggest millstone around the neck of our dreams and aspiration. The education system is not rising to the occasion. And why? The productivity level is wanting. It is unacceptably low. It's not good. We are convinced that none of our educators, none of the stakeholders could look into the mirror and say, I am satisfied with the productivity in education without blinking. You know the other story. They go and look in the mirror. Mirror on the wall. So we are advancing this practical display, this practical exercise to the people who are involved in education. Go in the mirror, look at the mirror, and ask the question, am I satisfied with the education system and the productivity in Grenada or Dominica or St. Lucia or anyway? And if you're blinking, you're lying to yourself. You must not tell lies to yourself. You could lie to everybody else. But when you're lying to yourself, you're in serious trouble. What can we do to improve the productivity level in the education today in Grenada? The situation in Grenada is not dissimilar to the rest of the Caribbean countries or CARICOM. In Grenada, we believe that 70% of the children that exit school cannot meet the minimum requirements. They cannot meet the minimum requirements. We have seen some statistics that say, it's not our statistics, we don't have the necessary academic acumen to come up with statistics that could stand the test of time. But we have seen some statistics that say 60% of the people that is looking for jobs do not have the necessary qualification, the necessary talents, the necessary skills for the jobs that are available. So when you speak about unemployment, it's not that we don't have jobs, but the individuals looking for the jobs don't have the skills and talents. We are also very concerned that because of the low productivity in the education system, it is contributing to the antisocial behavior and the growing incidence of violence in the Caribbean. A lot of countries in the Caribbean, the violence level, the homicide rate level is too much. Barbados, St. Kitts, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, the Dominican Republic, Trinidad and Tobago, Haiti. The level of homicide is unacceptably high. And there is a direct relationship between the people who goes to jail and the level of education they have. And let me immediately say, it doesn't mean that the intelligentsia are not committing crime. They're not going in jail. So almost all of the prisons in the Caribbean are overpopulated. And the majority of people in prison do not have a good education. In other words, they did not meet the minimum requirement required. The minimum requirement required, whenever that sounds good, to be competitive on the job market. In Grenada, we spend about 10 or 11 or 12% of our GDP on education. Our school structure, our building, our infrastructure in Grenada is better than any other time in our history. Our teachers, our educators are better trained, more certificated than any other time in our history. They are better paid, and I believe they have discretionary income. When you go around schools in Grenada, more than 20% of the educators drive themselves to school. This is no easy feat from yesteryear. In yesteryear, you might have seen one vehicle, the principal, or a bike, or a cycle or two. Today, I am concerned that children could get killed right in the school because of the number of vehicles that the children have to dance between on their ground. And I take a position, anytime you bounce a child in the school, the driver is wrong. Anytime you bounce a child in the school, the driver is wrong. The child can't run in the school. That's my position. Are we concerned about the productivity level in school? Our children go to school for a long time. Between 0 and 23 years, generally. The government of Grenada just expands school age to 18 years. I don't know what we're encouraging our children to go to school so far. We applaud, we promote mediocrity and encouraging children to spend more time in school. To me, that don't make no sense. But our children go to school. it doesn't seem to me that the parents care. And I know that is hard to see. When you make those statements, parents get angry with you. But deep down, I believe that the parents of yesteryear cared more about the children getting education than today's parents. And that is obviously will be controversial and subjective. Children used to walk to go to school. Majority of children used to walk to go to school. I had the opportunity to see parents beating children to go to school. I have never been flogged to go to school. But I didn't like school. I never liked school. But I always go to school willingly, because if I didn't go, I would have been flogged. At that time, the skin on your back was considered as hide. And parents believe that you shouldn't spare the rod and spoil the child. I think they like it. They take that seriously. They beat you at the drop of a hat. And they say, if he bleed, he bleed. So 20 and 30 and 36 lashes on the back of children was not uncommon. More like 8, 9, and 12 would have been, the thing of the day. But there are times when they thought you committed serious crimes, when 20 and 36 lashes fell on your back. A boy going to school with a knife, that was a serious crime. 25, 30 lashes. One boy, I remember, came to school with a bullet shell, a 12-gauge bullet shell. His father was a watchman, so he knew about the father gun. Take the empty shell and come to school. Well, they gave him 36. Because at that time, they believed perhaps the best method of discipline was a strap. And they had strap. They used to soak it in linseed oil. But we children then used to say it was pea. But later we found out it was linseed oil. And it was necessary to soak the strap so it wouldn't break or bust. But it was most parents wanted the children to get educated. And they did their best. At that time, maybe they felt beating you with a strap was the best thing they could do. In today's society, you don't see that this hunger by parents for the children to get educated. A lot of parents leave it up to the school and the child. And our children go to school from 2.5 years. So they spend 13 years in school in the first instance. And then they may end up in national college. And then they may go to university or to some training college, NUDO or some other things. And at the end of the day, 70% of them do not have the basic minimum requirement to be competitive on the job market. I believe this is unacceptable. And our educators should wear a tie. They should wear a tie. And they should re-examine themselves and see what part they played in preventing our children from getting a good education. Now, what is a good education? different parents might have different standards, and different schools might have different standards. But I believe a child should be well educated, multi-skilled, flexible, and endowed with the characteristic that gives them the competitive edge in the marketplace. The age that you're supposed to leave school in Grenada is 18 years. So you should enter the job market at 18. So after you reach the age of 18 or 17, let us say you get an additional 2 years study in the field that you want to go in. Whether it is mechanic or agriculture or food and nutrition or meteorology or whatever field. At least a 2 years course should be necessary to get on the job market, and you ought to be competitive on the job market. Some people might want to move on to do a bachelor's degree and a master's degree. And I believe by the age of 25, 30, you should have that bachelor's or master's. If you continue your education with fluidity, straight, by 23 years, 24, you should have a bachelor's degree. And if you want a master's degree, when 25, 26 years, you have a master's degree. After a master's degree, you could do a postgraduate or a PhD, depends on, if you continue to like to study or based upon the nature of the field you're in, you ought to do research. But I am advancing the view that 70% of our people, by the time they reach 22, 23 years, should be well educated, multi-skilled, flexible, and endowed with the characteristic that gives them the competitive edge. 60% of our parents today are women. They are single women that lead the home. You don't have a man leading the house. That doesn't mean the woman don't get in man, but you don't have a man leading the house. So that would contribute to some challenges, because it's always better when you have a two-parent in the house. And if it is backed up by the extended family, grandparents, uncle, is good. And if the community, if the policy of the country is so structured that the community is supportive of the education system, it's better. And that is a policy, that would be a policy of government, and will make it that the community is supportive of the education system. Because you would have already sold education as a nice thing, sweet like honey, nutritious, good. And people recognize for us to be competitive on the job market, we need a good education. That should sink in from day one. The challenge is not much people care. There is a few people, maybe 5, 10, 15% of our people that have it well locked down. The children are doing well in school. The children go to higher learning. But a high percentage of that percentage is very selfish. They see education as a means to be considered in the elitists. So the children are doing well, and obviously children will get opportunity to go to universities. And the children will get return and hold the top jobs in the country, and they consider themselves in a higher class than our people. But that cannot propel your country. They ought to be wise enough to know a culture like that cannot propel your country. It may only able to provide sustenance. It might appear that you're doing well, but the majority of your people are poor. And the violence level in your country would rise. So our psychologists, our social scientists, even our historians ought to be pointing out that to people. This culture is counterproductive. It would keep you in poverty. You don't have much natural resources. And even if what you have, because of the small landmass you have, it may not even worth mining. So your biggest resource is your people. And for your people to be competitive on the job market or in the marketplace, they have to have a higher level of education and productivity. It's difficult to understand after all these years. We have enough school building in Grenada. Some schools hardly have children. The teacher to children ratio in Grenada is about 1 to 15 on the average. And some schools struggling to have 100 children. For those of Grenadians that don't know, let me give you a peek inside a school. And you're speaking about an individual. I given you a peek inside a school and have not been inside a school perhaps for more than a decade or two. But I'm speaking about what I hear. And I dare them to challenge me. Every school in Grenada have a principal, a deputy principal. The principal have a secretary. You have departmental heads. You have a cook. And you have assistants to the cook. You have a cleaner. And you have assistants to the cleaner. You have a groundsman. You have 24 hours security. 24 hours security. Light blazing in the school. You also have a coach. And you have another person, I don't know the name, but this professional is for when hormones jumping up in children. They bring somebody to get the hormones to settle down. I don't know the name of this job. So the schools are well staffed. Yet, the productivity in the school is unacceptable and wanting. And the government, the chief education officer, and the chief education officer, based upon the Education Act, is more powerful than the Minister of Education. People must understand that. The chief education officer, based upon the Education Act, I believe is more powerful than the Minister of Education. The schools have a very powerful union, the Teachers Union in Grenada, and perhaps the rest of the Caribbean is not dissimilar, is extremely powerful. The Teachers Union in Grenada have a representative on the Public Service Commission. 5 persons, I think, on the Public Service Commission. The Teachers Union have a representative, and the Public Workers Union have a representative. So they're extremely powerful. But it seems to me that nobody cares. It seems to me they're satisfied with the status quo. So productivity is not an issue. They know the children not doing well. English language. One language is speaking in Grenada. English language. 70% of our children cannot pass English language. Well, don't talk about maths self, you know. Don't speak about maths. 70% can't pass maths. And when I call this statistic, I dare them to take me on. I challenge them. What is going on in our country? Why is it our children is struggling with maths? Every day they're doing maths. You send the children and buy in the shop every day. That is maths. The goods they come back with, they paying VAT on it. That is maths. You have to pay tax to government. The electricity bill. When you're cooking in your house, maths taking place now. Grenada like oil down. You putting things in proportion. Why is it our children cannot pass maths? Why 70% of our children cannot pass maths? They say maths hard. Well, how it could hard? Every day you're using it. It means that the educator is not able to practicalize their certification. They're not able to make maths practical. One individual say maths hard. I say, well, why don't you buy a tape? Go and measure your house. The last time I heard that area is length by breadth. Measure and calculate how much pieces of board you need for the flooring, how much you need for the side, how much galvanized you need for the house. Why the teacher lack the ability to practicalize the maths so the children will develop a palatability, an appetite for it because they're doing it every day? Our children can pass maths. And it seems the system glad because what happened is like a selection system. They do not want much people to succeed. So we could gallivant with the elitist system that we propagate in Grenada. Now, if few people succeed, those that have a good command of the English language and they have plenty certificate, they could show off. They could consider themselves as the elite. They don't understand. The few that is successful is too few to drive the economy. Sometimes I wonder who teach them. You too few. Less than 30% of our people are doing well. So you're too few. You cannot propel the economy. And the majority of people that is highly certificated is not in the productive sector of the economy. So how would you expand your economy? How would you grow your economy? In addition to that, we are embracing new technology. So training becomes a permanent thing. In yesteryear, you might have held 1 or 2 jobs for 40 years till you retire. But in today's dispensation, you might have to hold 10 jobs. So you have to constantly re-educating yourself. So if the education system does not prepare you, then how would you able to rise to the occasion? Where are our psychologists or social scientists? Because I believe they ought to be in the forefront discussing these issues and coming up with remedies, coming up with solutions to do that. Why is our teachers that are paid to teach not teaching? If the children is not learning, it means you're not teaching. I'll give you an example. The police sergeant, I think that is I don't know much about the military, but they say the sergeant does be considered as a workhorse. If you give the police sergeant 60 new recruits to train, to drill, and he has 6 months to do that, and after the 6 months you have a parade, and 1 or 2 may drop out. Some of the individuals come in, they're walking with their foot wide open, they're walking on the heel, some of them caboose, some of them walking bend. After 6 months, when they put on a piece of drill, everybody is happy. After 6 months. But if after 6 months, nobody was impressed with the manner in which they drill, they're going to fire that sergeant. That sergeant will never have an opportunity to be a drill master anymore in his life. Can teach, can train. Now, if a teacher is teaching maths, and he has to teach 100 children maths, and after 5 years, only 9 children pass maths, is the teacher a good maths teacher? What the system do, they tamper with the statistics. So they send 10 children. After 5 years in school, 10 children went to do maths. 9 pass. The teachers say you get 90%. And if you see people celebrate, if you see them whine, if you hear them say, oh, the school good, the teachers send 90% of the children pass. But he only sent 10. So 9 pass. He's not saying that he got 9%. 100 children entered the maths class 5 years ago. You sent 10. And only 9 pass. That is 9%. But because they tamper with the statistics to propagate mediocrity, we celebrate it. If you ask an individual to make furnitures, he had to make 100 chairs. And at the end of the day, 70 of these chairs was rejected. Didn't meet the standard. Would you go back to that furniture maker again to make chairs? No, you would not go back. Then if the teacher teaching Spanish, and after 5 years, 70% of the children failing, maybe you need to seriously consider the fact that the teacher can't teach Spanish. Maybe you let the teacher teach English. They can't teach Spanish. When would we wake up in Grenada and the rest of the Caribbean? When? I always ask the question, why is it we are doing that to our people? This is not Europeans that are teaching us. This is not Chinese that are teaching us. This is not Americans that are teaching us. It's we that are teaching us. So we're supposed to take pride. We're supposed to have passion. We're supposed to want the children to succeed. We're supposed to be hungry for education. We're supposed to understand the economic importance of our educated people. We are not doing that. Why the parents don't get hungry for education? Our children are profiled in school. We need to stop profiling our children. Our children are profiled in school. When the children enter school at 5 years old, I see you heard me say 2.5 and now I'm saying 5. Because you have kindergarten, pre-primary school. And that started in Grenada in the days of Eric Gary. He was one individual who believed in education with a passion. But the age that is compulsory for the child to go to school is 5. So when your child goes to school at 5, they are being profiled. The dice cast. They don't use that language anymore about dunce and bright. They don't use it. They get more sophisticated as they get more certificated. They say academically inclined. They used to use fast and slow instead of dunce and bright. But now they get more sophisticated. They say the child is not academically inclined. So by the time the child have 10 or 11 or 12 years, they want to send the child in technical school. The child can do maths. The child can communicate. They want to go in technical school. Well, the vehicles that are coming today are highly sophisticated and computerized. Electric vehicles, hybrid and etc. So if your child is not have a good understanding of mathematics and physics and computer science, how would they function in this world with the type of technology that is available? So why are we tricking us? You can't blame the Europeans. We are responsible. The productivity level in schools is unacceptable. Our teachers are not teaching the children good. The principals of the school are not supervising. Nobody's holding people accountable. We have to hold the people accountable. The parents, they like success stories, but they are not prepared to make success stories. So we seem to have a culture of hatching onto success story. But we are not prepared to spend the time and make the sacrifice to make success story. The school is not a factory producing success stories. We hatch onto success stories. So if a child do well in school, yeah, we apply that. We speak about it. And we say this school did very well. One child get 12, one get 10, two get 9, one get 8, and then the song that the voice had to change. How much gets 7? 3 gets 7, and then they can't remember what happened. So the schools that have done well, that we claim that have done well, they tamper with the statistics. They tamper with the statistics. 100 children enter school and started to do mathematics. There are compulsory subjects in school. Mathematics and English language, I believe, is compulsory. Physics and chemistry and biology ought to be compulsory too. But mathematics and language. And if 100 children enter a class in Form 1, 110. When you reach in Form 5, 10 dead. So 100 children did maths. And if 9 pass, that is 9%. Because you send 10, you say you got 90%. But you should have sent 100. You throw the others outside. You say that no good. That no good. That can learn. You say they're not academically inclined. So you throw them out. And you send 9. You send 10. And out of the 10, 9 pass. And then you say the teacher real good. They get 90%. You lie. You tamper with the statistics. How could we continue like that? I don't talk about them boys, you know. If you got 9, maybe 8.5 is girls, you know. Or 7.5 is girls. And you make angry men. You make angry men. You make dissatisfied men. You make pussified men. How are you going to develop your society? The boy is a good gambler. How he can do maths? By check and win. If I have a good memory, you know which card fall yesterday. But in school, he can't do maths. Every excuse our school get now, they're sending the boys out. Every excuse they get. The boys outside. And maybe they like to go outside. Because I never liked school. But that doesn't mean that you don't go to school. You may not like school, but you understand the economic importance of school. Why is it we are doing that to our own people? Remember, some of the children you're screwing up in school today, they would be the mother and father of your grandchild. Some of the people you're doing injustice to the school today, they might be the ambulance driver that's driving you when you're sick. And they're reckless drivers, particularly when they watch you in the back. They say, you crying now? Remember how you do me in school? We have to hold those in charge of our children accountable. We have to prepare to discuss the issues. I was in discussion with a retired principal and he takes strong objection to my position. And I ask, what percentage of he blamed the parents. This what happened, the educators, the school blamed the parents. They say it's the parents that is at fault for making these children and them that have social problems and they have attitude problem and it doesn't settle down. So they blame the parents. And as said before, 60% of the parents are women. And most of the men that lead the home, they say, Papa, oh, they don't want no trouble with their wife or the woman, so they don't bother. Everything she says, yes. So even when the percentage of men that lead the house, they lead the home with the permission of the wife. They don't want to anger the woman. So they're making no issue. They might be very hardworking. When they come in at night, they want some sun. They can't bother about to challenge the dominance of the wife. They cannot bother to motivate the woman to get more hungry for education. They principally concerned with a little sun, a little rest, and then they go again. Where we going with that? What would be the end result? Remember that I said before, the majority of people in prison today, all the prisons in the Caribbean are overpopulated. And the majority of people in prison do not meet the minimum requirement to be competitive on the job market. Most of them cannot hold on a job. And they turn to drugs, gambling, extortion, violence, the bitter, full of hate, vagrants on the street. And a lot of anger. Sometimes they practically making demands from the women they knew in school. And you was to school together, give me your money. And our educators doesn't seem to be concerned. I've not heard the voice of our psychologists. Very few of our social scientists speak. Very, very, very few. I used to read some articles from Douglas and Lawrence Joseph. I've read articles from them, but very few speak about that. Very few people want to challenge our educators. Our educators are the biggest intellectuals in the country. And I said before, they have a lot of clout. The unions are very powerful, and the unions have representation at the highest level. And it seems today in Grenada, the government of the day have a very cozy relationship with the union, so they don't want to anger them. So accountability gone out of the door. And mediocrity is the order of the day. You have a phenomenon that developed in our schools where schools want to fence the school. And this one always baffles me. Why is it they want to fence the school? Remember I said to you, in Grenada today, the schools have security 24/7. I think 2 in the day, 2 in the night. And the lights blaze in the school. Yet, they want to fence the school. The schools are preoccupied with distancing themselves from the community. Let me say that again. It seems to me, it doeth appear that the schools and the educators want to distance themselves from the community. They only require the community, most schools only require the community on 2 occasions. One is when they have sports, and 2, at the end of the term in August. They make a big fair and a block or dance. And in sports, they need the community. They only need the community for a fresh source of money. But after that, they distance themselves from the community. So there is no culture in Grenada today of the school buying in the community and the community own the school. I don't know if when I say that makes sense. It don't even sound good for me. But I don't know how to say it better. I believe a school must buy in the community. The school must involve in the community. The educators must involve in the community. And the community must feel that the school is theirs. They must own the school and take care of the school. Nothing is farther from the truth like that in Grenada. The schools need the community on 2 occasions, minimum. Sports, and at the end of the term, they make the fair or bazaar, and some have the dance. That's it. As far as they're concerned now, don't interfere with them after that. Some of them, when graduation, they rent a hall. Expensive stuff. You see the parents going on the road, they outdress the children. Some women dress in red and white, some man dress in white and red. They go in ball. Expensive stuff. And that is the end of the story. Now, how are we going to develop our country if that is the culture, if that is the attitude that exists? How are you going to develop a country? The child goes to school and exits school at 18 years. And then they go to National College for another 2 years. And after the 2 years in National College, they don't have the skills to enter the job market. Most of our intellectuals is not successful in the productive sector of the economy. And I verily believe that they're trying to be elitist. So they're in a different social class. Well, you could understand why we have an increase in homicide in most of the countries in the Caribbean. Grenada not there yet, but it seems that Grenada fighting for the name to call in the high level of homicide in the Caribbean. We are laying the groundwork. When you watch our boys, they're angry. They're very uncompetitive on the job market. The government say they don't have the skills. Well, after 2 years, how much skills you need to do plumbing or electrical or construction, or you involved in the computer system? The programs that the previous government start in Grenada to address some of these skill sets and skills training have been shown. And the security service now is used as a social program. What skills you learning in security? Except a lot of people homes now are left without the mothers, because there is a serious increase in the females doing security. Now, when they had the Imani program, 70 or 80% of them was women. So they say, well, the boys run away from that. So I think they had a program for the boys alone. And they had about 500 boys involved in that. Because the boys seems not to function well near them girls. Because the girl them too bright for them. Same thing happen in school. So they had a program for the boys, Project Fly and Project Hope and Project what. This present government come in and it seems not to be too interested in these things. Nothing is wrong with that. Different government have different policy. But the security service now is used as a social program. And nothing is wrong with that because you have to provide some form of employment for people. What is the end game? What is the end result? And because of the cozy relationship between the government and the teachers' union and our educators, they can't say what I'm saying. They cannot say what I'm saying. Our educators should shed a tear. The productivity level in our schools are wanting. After 23 years, 18 years, 20 years, our children are exiting school and they cannot meet the minimum requirement. I am suggesting, and I do hope parents in the house discuss it and take issue with it. I'm only provoking discussion that our children should be well educated, multi-skilled, multi-talented, flexible, and endowed with the characteristic that gives them the competitive edge on the marketplace. And women of Grenada, because more than, why you think I put emphasis on women? Let me tell you why. More than 60% of the household are led by women. Some of the men that lead in the household, they're not rocking the boat. They don't rock in the boat. Man say when he come home, the wife bride and him already, she responsible for education, he don't rock in the boat. When he want a little sunshine in the night, he don't have no time to argue with the woman about children. The majority of teachers are women. The majority of permanent secretaries are women. So who you want me to call on? Man? All the females in the animal kingdom, when they have young ones, they become very defensive. You notice I'm not saying aggressive. They're very protective. Go back and watch them. There are some instances in birds, and I think in fish, and the wolves, where the male play a significant part in protecting the young ones. But generally, it's the female that is very defensive. Or women in Grenada is not hungry for education. And I know one or two will say, yes, more than 70% of our women, they're not hungry for education. Mediocrity is the order of the day. They hatch on to success stories. And maybe the two most important points for them is graduation and sports. So when the children come from school, they're not equipped. We cannot develop our economy like that. Our economic base have to grow. The middle class in Grenada is shrinking. The line, the distance between the rich and the poor is getting wider. It's quite true we have a lot of people that believe they're rich. You're poor. And our children are not doing well. The jobs on the market are available, but we do not have the skills and talents to compete for those jobs. So I'm going to end where I started. I'm extremely concerned about our education system and the productivity level is wanting. 70% of our children that exit school cannot meet the minimum requirements. I want to thank you for, listening or participating in my program. The main aim and the main objective is to provoke discussion. We hope that people will start to see it, examining what we say for what it is worth, see if there is any merit in it, and if you could wear a tear, then wear a tear. Thank you very much.